Y'all want another Tubi mess? This is Married to Abala 2, so if you haven't watched the first one, check it out in description below. If you ain't got time for that, basically what had happened was Sky was married to an abusive man, Sandino, and she ran away with her two sons, Jordan and Kareem. Unbeknownst to her, Sky's best friend Asia stole Sky's money and started sleeping with Sandino. Luckily, Sky met a foreign man named Justice, who she fell for. One day, Dino shows up and tries to end both of them, but Sky shoots her fugly husband dead. Time passes, and Sky still suffers from the trauma of being hunted down by her abusive husband. One night, she has a nightmare about him, and when she wakes up, she hears the fire alarm going off in the living room. She is shocked to find her place is on fire, so she rushes inside and wakes Jordan, and they hurriedly rush out. Moments later, the fire department arrives, and as they put out the fire marshal questions Sky about what happened. Based on what she told him, he suspects someone might be out to get her. He learns that her other son, Kareem, is off in college, but he wouldn't hurt them. The officer hands her his card and tells her to call him if she ever needs anything. That man trying to holla at you. A few days later, Sky goes to her self-defense classes, where she channels her emotions from everything she went through with Sandino into practice. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Sandino abruptly wakes up from a coma, and he tries to leave. But the doctor shows up and calms him down while the nurse rushes to call his wife. The size of his forehead is huge. At work, Sky talks to one of her patients' mother, whose daughter, Logan, needs a liver transplant. The woman narrates her terrible situation to Sky about how she can't afford rent and currently hopes for a miracle. Sky gets touched and hands the mother a stack of hundreds to ease some of her finances. Just then, Jessica, Sky's friend, walks in and pulls Sky for a chat. She sympathizes with Sky about the fire, and after learning about how Sky had been faring recently, Jessica not only offers to let Sky stay at her place, but also plans to have her promoted by getting her to work with Dr. Langston. As Jessica schedules the interview, Sky thanks her for all her help. Then Jessica invites Sky and Jordan for dinner. Back at the hospital, when Sandino learns Asia is posing as his wife, he confronts her about it, but then she tells the busted man that he's lucky he's alive. She says his life is not the same as it used to be because his house has been foreclosed. Sandino gets pissed at her for not paying the mortgage. Then she reminds him that he didn't give her access to his money. Looking for someone else to blame, the dude wonders why Sky didn't do anything about it. Bewildered, Asia reminds him that Sky was the one who shot him, and she wonders why he keeps thinking of her all the time. Sandino reminds her that Sky is his wife and she has two sons with him. But then Asia breaks it to him that they have a child together named Celia. Surprised, he refuses to believe the child is his, saying Asia has opened up her kitty to the entire continent of Asia. Later that evening, Sky and Jordan move in with Jessica. Sky speaks to Kareem briefly before handing Jordan the phone for the boys to catch up. Sky opens up about their trauma and how she still has nightmares about Sandino. A few days later, the hospital discharges Sandino, and he goes to live with Asia and their daughter Celia. While she cooks, he learns that Sky currently resides in the Grove area. Upset that he is only interested in Sky and his sons, Asia reveals how his supposed family never visited him in the hospital. But he defends them by saying he is aware his sons are his, unlike Celia's case. Pissed, Asia slaps him for the insult and runs away, but he follows her and whoops her before the ugly braided man drives away. Meanwhile, Jordan smokes and hangs out with boys from the boonies, but as they learn his mom shot his dad, a loudmouth casually makes a snarky remark about Sky.
Keep my mom's name out your mouth then.
I ain't got your mama in my mouth.
So Jordan pummels him to the ground. Thankfully, the others separate them, and Jordan storms off angrily. On the day of the interview, Sky walks into Dr. Langston's office, and to her surprise, she realizes Langston was Brett, her high school sweetheart. The room gets awkward, and as Langston acts professional with her, Sky apologizes for how she ended things with him back then. Y'all, the sparks are flying between these two. Once he learned that she's married, Sky briefs him a bit about her current situation, and from there she assures him that she's the right person for the job, despite her lack of qualifications. Brett accepts her for the job on a 60-day probation period, and she thanks him before leaving. When Sky and Jessica celebrate, Sky says Brett was her first real love.
So Dr. Langston is cherry popping bread.
Sky claims she's going to keep it professional, but I just know her coochie been itching for some eggplant. As for Sandino, He goes looking for Sky till he arrives at her old house, but doesn't find her there. The following week, Brett introduces Sky to the team they're working with, and after the meeting, he informs her that they'd both be having dinner with the head of the Orlando branch, so he rizzes her by calling her the ideal date to take along. "Girl, that man a doctor and he foreign? I'd ask him to give me an exam real quick." Back at home, Sky tells Jessica that she's starting to catch feelings for Brett again, and it's gonna be hard to keep it professional. A few hours later, Sky shows up at Brett's place, so they can head out for dinner with the Orlandos, but the Orlandos call for a rain check. Left alone, Brett suggests Sky stay while he makes dinner. She obliges.
Pasta or salad?
Oh, no carbs for me.
Yo, she trying to do anal later. As he cooks, they catch up. She goes into detail about her situation, and the mood gets sappy as he encourages her. Things heat up, and as they are about to smooch, a call comes in, informing her that Jordan was arrested. Shocked, Sky prepares to leave, but Brett offers to give her a ride to the station. He's somewhat disappointed that this isn't the type of ride he was trying to end the night with. Meanwhile, Sandino requests help from an old friend in Atlanta who gives him a place to stay and agrees to help him find his wife. On their way back from the station, Sky introduces Brett to Jordan as a childhood friend, and Brett tries to strike up a conversation with Jordan, but he remains silent. When they get home, Sky confronts him about his behavior in the car, and she also questions him about why he chose to hang out with drug dealers. Jordan simply claims they are friends from school, and they were just walking. She gets a whiff of the pixie dust he's been smoking, so she asks him about it. He immediately denies it, then walks away. Days later at work, Sky talks to Logan's mom, assuring her that she is working on her daughter's case. But when Brett gets wind of it, he pulls her to the side and reminds her she's no longer in charge of Logan's case. Then he invites her to a meeting with the Orlandos in Orlando, but when she tries to turn it down due to her busy schedule, Brett insists. They travel to Orlando, and after meeting up with the client, they head back to the hotel, where Sky invites Brett to her room, and they kiss before doing the nasty. The next morning, Brett teaches Sky a few self-defense techniques, and they spar while flirting with each other. Back in Georgia, Sandino looks at one of Jordan's recent photos with his friends, and by closely observing it, he roughly learns their location. Days later, as Sky moves into her new place, Jessica shows up not only to congratulate her, but to get some tea on Brett. While Sky fills her in, Jordan walks in with an attitude, and Jessica, sensing the tension, takes her cue to leave. Annoyed, Sky orders Jordan to sit, and she shows him the fire reports of their burnt house, stating that it wasn't arson, but the fire started in the living room. When she shows him a ton of salads she had found in his room, he confesses, and she condemns him for doing marijuana, but not burning down the house? Jordan gets defensive and says it's his coping mechanism, since she's too busy hanging out with boyfriend number 3 while his dad is in a coma. Irritated, she slaps him, but then he stands up to her, so Sky dares him to try to hit her. Jordan gets pissed with her and shoves her away while saying she's worse than his father. Let that man go live with his dusty father and see how he likes it. Meanwhile, at Jessica's house, Sandino shows up looking for Sky, but she doesn't let him in and denies knowing who Sky is. That evening, while Jordan hangs around with his friends, Sandino jumps him and hurls him into his car. He then shushes Jordan by revealing himself, and Jordan is shocked. Although pissed at Jordan for moving with the wrong crew, Sandino reconnects with him and learns of Sky's location. At work, Brett tells Sky about Logan getting an extension in the hospital, and she thanks him with a kiss for his help. He gets serious by asking to confirm if their relationship is real, and at first she does. But then she gets overwhelmed by how fast things are moving for her. She leaves early and doesn't respond when he says he loves her. Unbeknownst to Sky, Sandino has been waiting outside for her. Sky walks in defenseless to her car, and Sandino and his lackey grab and toss her into his car. When Jordan gets home, he calls Kareem and happily informs him about their dad's well-being. But when Kareem learns that Jordan had told Sandino about their mom's workplace, he gets worried, so he hurries home. Jordan's stupid AF, no common sense. During that time, Jessica and Brett also try to contact Sky, but her line doesn't go through, so they hurry over to her place and ask Jordan, who then informs them that Sandino is back. Kareem texts Jordan, asking him to meet down the street. Elsewhere in an abandoned building, Sky wakes up and to her horror sees the fugly braided man who accuses her of running away with his children. Despite their harmful relationship, he tells her he forgives her and wants to start anew. But Sky disagrees. Mid-conversation, her phone lights up, revealing Brett's name. And upon seeing this, Sandino flares up and grabs Sky's neck, angry that she's having an affair. In her defense, she tells him how he always cheated on her, even to the point of having a child with her best friend. Then he gets violent with her, but due to her self-defense lessons, she gets some hits in. Eventually, he overpowers her and knocks her out. Meanwhile, Sky's loved ones brainstorm ways to find her. Upon getting her location, they rush there. On their way, Jordan reveals that he was the one who disclosed Sky's location to Sandino. Kareem immediately gets pissed at him for being so dumb. They reach a certain point, lose signal, and are unable to track her location. Realizing that they are in the sketchy side of town, they decide to call the authorities to report the situation. Back at the abandoned building, Sky wakes up tied to a chair, so she falls over and picks a broken tile shard and uses it to cut herself free. Right after, she texts Brett, informing him of her whereabouts and that Sandino had kidnapped her. Suddenly, Sandino, who had gone out to get some booze, shows up wasted and panics when he can't find Sky, so he looks for her everywhere. He eventually finds her trying to escape and confronts her about Brett, whom she admits that she's in love with. Sandino gets pissed, but she whacks him out cold while he's distracted, then grabs her phone and tries contacting her people. During that time, her loved ones get a signal, so they continue looking for her. Unfortunately, Sandino wakes up and chokes her from behind while reminding her of their marital vows. This time around, she jabs him, then attacks him with a hefty pipe wrench. As she hits him, memories of his abuse flood her mind, so she makes sure she takes him down for good, without needing any help from her loved ones. 6 months later, at Sky's house party, Brett proposes to her, and she happily says yes to the D. Jessica and her sons are in support as Sky finally finds happiness. This better be her happy ending, because I'm tired of Tubi Mike Myers-ing Sandino. What did you guys think of this one?
If you like this video, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because YouTube isn't recommending my videos. So if you like to watch more foolishness, you can click here or here.